Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Friday, June 28th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Friday, Major League Baseball. First up, the Miami Marlins taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to see Christopher Sanchez for Philadelphia, Kyle Tyler for the Marlins. Now, Tyler's only had 6 innings so far at the Major League level. 1 start, and that was his last game against the Mariners. The other one was out of the bullpen. So far, a 4.5 ERA. Only the 3 strikeouts in those 6 innings. I don't really love the spot form or matchup against the Phillies. And Sanchez has pitched well this year. I've mentioned, I think he's one of the more underrated pitchers in baseball. 2.67 ERA, 84 1/3 innings of work, so the sample size is certainly there. Doesn't really, earn a ton of strikeouts, but great pitch-to-contact starter. Keeps the ball on the ground. Only 1 home run given up this season. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies in this one on the run line. Next up, the Washington Nationals taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to see Mitchell Parker and Zach Eflin as your starters. Zach Eflin's been a lot better at Tropicana Field than he's been on the road. He's actually got a sub-3 ERA at home this season. Now, unfortunately for him, a majority of his recent outings have been on the road, and that's why we've seen him struggle here and there. But the Rays are still 4-1 in his last 5 games, and I like this spot. I like the matchup for the Rays bats also against Mitchell Parker, who's pitched well. There's no doubt about it. But the Rays have been decent against lefties, and especially when their lineup's getting healthier now, they're a tough lineup to face for any starter. I think the Rays bullpen's also improving after a really miserable start to the year. I'm looking to back the Rays quite often right now, and this is one of those spots where I'm going to take Tampa Bay on the money line. Next up, the Texas Rangers taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Max Scherzer and Albert Suarez are your starters. I know Suarez recently not in great form, but he's facing a Rangers team that in the last 30 days is dead last in OPS and ISO against righties. This is a good spot for him to bounce back. He's been sharp at Camden Yards with a sub-2 ERA. I know Scherzer was excellent in his season debut, but the rehab starts in the minor leagues were a little bit concerning, gave up some sharp contact, and he only went 5 innings in that first game back against Kansas City, who was struggling. That lineup, the Royals, they were struggling going into that game. So now you're facing the Orioles on the road. The Orioles have been great against right-handed pitching from start to now of the season, and in the last 30 days, number 1 in OPS and ISO. This is a tough matchup for Scherzer. I don't love this Rangers bullpen. I like the Orioles in this game on the money line and potentially lay 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Marcus Stroman and Yusei Kikuchi are your starters. I've mentioned that I'm not always in love with the fact that Stroman, his ground ball percentage this year has been quite low. Strikeout percentage as well. His walks have gone up a little bit. I've mentioned regression concerns. We saw 2 home runs given up from him in that last game against Atlanta. But I still think despite all of that, he's the better option in this game. And when you got the Yankees lineup behind him, I know the Yankees have not been nearly as dominant as they were for most of the season, but Yusei Kikuchi is really struggling to locate both inside and outside the zone. We saw that again in that last game against Cleveland where, the Blue Jays early on in that game were getting to Tristan McKenzie. They had a 2-run home run the first inning. So he was given that run support early on and just didn't do anything with it. He gave up 4 runs in 2 innings, 8 base hits to go with it. Just really wasn't competitive on the mound. That makes it back-to-back non-competitive starts from Kikuchi. And overall, while he had a great start to the year, he's just kind of fallen off quite a bit. ERA now at 4.0 on the season. I like the Yankees in this one. I don't love this Blue Jays lineup. Also, I think the Yankees have the better bullpen, so I'm going to go with the Yanks in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Chicago White Sox. Dakota Hudson and Drew Thorpe are your starters. Obviously, 2 teams I'm not looking to back too often right now, but in this particular matchup, we know that the Rockies have struggled quite a bit on the road, not only this season, but in recent years. And that series against the Astros, while it was only a 2-game series, not really competitive in that one. They lost 5-2 and 7-1, so 2 run line losses. And, I do think Hudson, while he's been better at Coors Field, it's still, I just don't really love his game right now. And I think Drew Thorpe is honestly the better option in this game while he's struggled in his major league, his first couple of starts at the major league level. His last game against Detroit was excellent. 6 innings, a shutout ball, 5 strikeouts to go with it. I think that Thorpe will be the better option in this game. I think he'll be able to go 5-6 decent innings. And I think the White Sox will be able to win this game. So not a game I'm rushing to bet, but if I had a lean, I would take the White Sox on the money line. Next up, the Houston Astros taking on the New York Mets. We're going to see Ronel Blanco and Jose Quintana as the starters. We know the Mets now back to 500. The Astros also back to 500 going into Friday's games. Two teams that had really slow starts of the year but have picked it up quite a bit. Should be a fun series. In this particular matchup, I like the Astros. I just think Ronel Blanco is going to be the better option in this game. Sub-3 ERAs, pitched really well even after the suspension. When he had the foreign substance in that game against Oakland, while he struggled in a couple of starts against the Twins and Cardinals, since then, he's gone 6 innings of one-run ball, 7 innings of shutout baseball, and then 7 innings against the Baltimore Orioles of one-run ball. Really impressive stuff in a 5-1 Astros win. I think he gets the run support in this one against the lefty and Jose Quintana. We've mentioned the Astros' numbers against lefties, maybe not as strong as they've been in recent years, but that strikeout rate is still very, very low. It makes it pretty tough for opposing pitchers, opposing lefties. And Houston, in the last 30 days, that strikeout rate below 15% against lefties. I think we see him continue to improve. Low BABIP for this team. I think we see some positive regression. I like Houston against Quintana. I like the Astros to win the game on the money line. In our next game, we go to Fenway Park as the Padres take on the Red Sox. Randy Vasquez and Nick Pivetta as your starters. Vasquez has struggled mightily away from Petco Park with an ERA above 6, almost above 7 at 6.85, and that's 22 and a third innings of work. So a pretty decent sample size. 17 earned runs, 37 base hits given up, and 5 walks, 6 homers to go with it. He pitched well in that last game against the Brewers, but that was at home. The previous road start was against the Phillies. 4 and a third innings, 6 earned runs, 12 base hits, and 2 home runs, and a 9-2 Padres loss. I just can't trust him here against a solid Red Sox lineup. Nick Pivetta has been decent on the mound this year. While I don't love him at Fenway Park because he does give up a lot of home runs, I still think he'll be the better option in this game. The Red Sox are 4-0 in his last 4 games, and I think the Red Sox have the better bullpen in this one. So give me Boston on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Atlanta Braves. We see Martin Perez for the Buccos, Charlie Morton for Atlanta. Martin Perez returning from the 15-day IL. This is not necessarily the best matchup, in my opinion, for him. He's facing a Braves lineup that's improved against lefties. He's also not pitching too well on the road this year. I think Atlanta gets to Perez early in this one, and Morton's been tough to read. He's been very inconsistent. We saw him struggle in that last game against the Yankees, but I still think he'll pitch pretty well in this game. I don't love this Pirates lineup. In the last month, not great against right-handed pitching, so I think Morton can go 5-6 decent innings, hand it over to a solid Braves bullpen. I think Atlanta gets the run support for Morton, so I'm going to go with the Braves in this one on the run line. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Jameson Taillon and Colin Ray are your starters. Now, we saw this same pitching matchup back in May, the end of May. It was a 6-4 Brewers victory. Both starters pitched pretty well. Taillon had a quality start. Ray went 5 1/3 of one-run ball. I could see both starters pitching okay in this one, but I do think that the Cubs have the advantage in the first 5 innings. I don't love their bullpen. I think the Milwaukee is the much better pen in the end, and we've seen the Cubs give up a lot of runs in the late innings in recent games. But Colin Ray, a 3.62 ERA, but a 5.34 expected ERA, 4.8 FIP. There are some regression concerns, and we saw that last game against San Diego, giving up those 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings, 2 home runs to go with it. He's given up at least 1 home run in 4 of his last 5 starts. So I got to go with the Cubs in the first 5 innings. Maybe you go with the Brewers in the late innings. If it's a close one, you can get a pretty good price in the live odds, but I'm going to go with the Cubs in the first 5. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Kansas City Royals. Tristan McKenzie and Alec Marsh are your starters. Another game where I'm looking at the first 5 innings. I think Cleveland has the best bullpen in baseball. You could make the argument that the Royals have the worst bullpen in baseball, as they are right now dead last in xFIP in their bullpen. So if it's a close game late, or even if it's not a close game late, if the Royals have a few run lead in the late going, I still worry about Kansas City's bullpen in terms of preserving a lead. So that's why I'm going to go with the Royals in the first 5 innings. I also like the over, but I do think that Alec Marsh is the better option in this game to start. He's pitched well at Kauffman Stadium, 3-1 record, 3.58 ERA, and 37 2/3 innings. I think he'll pitch okay. I still think it's a tough matchup against Cleveland, but I really think the Royals get to Tristan McKenzie. He's somebody that's given up a lot of home runs this year. So far, 17 bombs, which is in the top 3, I believe, in most home runs given up by a starter in 2024. And now you're pitching at Kauffman Stadium, which we know is pretty hitter-friendly, and a lot of home runs are hit there. I think the Royals can take advantage of that, get on the board early and often, and in the first 5 innings have the lead. So give me Kansas City in the money line, first 5, and the over in the full game. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Frankie Montas and Andre Palante are your starters. I don't really love either of these options in this game. For me, I just think the Cardinals have the much better bullpen, so in a close game, I'd like their chances, especially playing at Busch Stadium, playing at home. Palante's been able to keep the Cardinals in games, even the last game where he didn't have his best stuff. He gave up, quite a few runs. The Cardinals still went on to win that one 6-5 in the end. It goes to show you St. Louis has really improved offensively from a really rough start to the year, and that bullpen remains a top 10 bullpen in my opinion in baseball. Montas has been very inconsistent. We've seen some great outings. We've seen some not so great. The Reds are 1-4 in its last 5 games. I'm going to go with the St. Louis Cardinals on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Kenta Maeda and Zach Plesac are your starters. I'm going to go with the over in this one. I don't really trust either of these starting pitching options. Maeda's given up in his last 2 starts. It was 9 2/3 combined, 13 base hits, 7 earned runs, and one of those games was against the Chicago White Sox. Now you're facing an Angels team that's starting to pick it up offensively. Plesac on the other side, while the Tigers are nowhere near as strong as the Brewers and Dodgers are offensively, still, Plesac only 2 strikeouts in 9 1/3 innings, 4 home runs to go with it. That's been the problem not only this year, but in recent years at the major league level. Not missing enough bats, giving up a lot of fly balls and a lot of home runs, and I can't trust him in the spot either. So 2 bullpens, I would say, are below league average. Detroit right around league average, but still an ERA above 4. The Angels, we know their bullpen has been one of the weakest ones in baseball, an ERA at 5.04. I got to go with the over in Detroit, Los Angeles. Next up, the Oakland Athletics taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. J.P. Sears for Oakland, no official starter for Arizona. Sears is not in good form. We saw 8 earned runs given up in that last game, 4 earned runs, and 3 bombs given up in the previous start. Now, both of those games were against the Twins. The Twins have crushed lefties recently, so no real surprise there. But Arizona's also been decent against lefties this season. You're pitching at Chase Field, and I just think it's a bad matchup for J.P. Sears, especially when you look at the fact that Oakland's lineup has not been great recently, and the bullpen's also fallen off quite a bit from a strong start to the year. So I got to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks in this one on the run line. The Minnesota Twins taking on the Seattle Mariners. Bailey Ober and Logan Gilbert are your starters. Now, both starting pitchers are pitching well recently, but you got to look at the strength of schedule. Bailey Ober's last 2 games were against the Oakland Athletics, and obviously they've struggled quite a bit recently, so no real surprise to see him go 6 1/3, 1 run, and a complete game, 2 runs with 18 strikeouts and 2 Twins victories. But the same thing for Gilbert, who's pitching really well after a couple of tough outings. His last 4 games have been spotless, but he's faced the A's, the White Sox, the Rangers, and the Marlins. Those 4 teams are in the bottom of the league in terms of OPS and ISO against righties in the last month. So this is going to be a pretty tough matchup for both of these starting pitchers. I trust the Twins lineup more right now. I just think Minnesota, 4th in team OPS against righties. Their strikeout rate has really gone down, 18.5% for a team that at the beginning of the year was near 30% in strikeout rate against both righties and lefties. Big improvements there. I think that's a big reason why the Twins have just been a better team in general recently. They're number 3 in isolated power. I think both of these teams have solid bullpens that have kind of underperformed at times this season, but I think in the end, I trust the Twins bats more, so I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins at an excellent price on the money line. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the San Francisco Giants. Landon Knack and Logan Webb are your starters. Now, Logan Webb has faced the Dodgers twice this season. One of those starts, he pitched pretty well, or really well. The other one, he pitched pretty poorly. One of those was at Dodger Stadium, the other one at Oracle Park. We can guess which one he pitched well in, of course, the game at Oracle Park, where Webb has just been a lot better at home this season and in recent years than he's been on the road. So in that game against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium, 3 2/3 innings, 5 earned runs, 7 base hits, and a 5-4 Giants loss. But in the game at home, which was the more recent start on May 15th, against LA, 6 innings of shutout baseball, only 3 base hits given up, 5 strikeouts, pretty good ground ball to fly ball ratio, and a 4-1 Giants victory. I like Logan Webb in this spot, and I think we're getting a great price with a San Francisco team. I think it's flying under the radar right now. San Francisco's bullpen, we've mentioned, their bullpen xFIP is ranked 3rd in baseball at 3.62, and that ERA started to drop now. We see it at 4.29. It was in the 4.7 range not too long ago, so it's improving there. I think Webb pitches well. Landon Knack has not pitched too much at the major league level this year, 25 2/3 innings. He's pitched pretty well, but I don't love the fact he only has 18 strikeouts in those 25 2/3. He's also faced a pretty weak strength of schedule recently. The Angels, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, and Nationals twice. For me, none of those lineups really scare me. So on the road here, I think the price is right with San Francisco. I'm going to go with the Giants on the money line in this one. And that's it. Those are the games for Friday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.